What if I told you that the wealthiest families on Earth don't just control their businesses, they control the world? The elite few, those with unimaginable wealth, don't just sit back and count their money. They shape global politics, influence economies, and make decisions that affect billions of lives. They operate behind the scenes, pulling the strings in ways most people will never fully understand. Their money isn't just power, it's the ultimate tool for control. For centuries, billionaire dynasties have dictated the course of history. From the banking empires of Europe to the oil tycoons of the United States, the ultra-rich have always found ways to secure and expand their influence. These families don't just pass down wealth from generation to generation, they pass down control, ensuring that their grip on power never weakens. Governments may change, economies may rise and fall, but these families remain at the top, untouched and unchallenged. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the dark secrets of the world's richest families. We'll uncover how they manipulate global financial markets to grow their wealth, how they use politics to protect their interests, and how some have even been tied to secret societies that dictate world affairs. We'll expose the scandals they tried to cover up, the hidden tactics they use to secure their power, and the truth about whether their so-called philanthropy is actually making a difference, or just another tool for control. The scale of their wealth is beyond comprehension. The top 0.01% of the global elite now control more than 50% of the world's wealth. That means a handful of families own more than the combined wealth of billions of people. Think about that for a moment. These are not just rich individuals. They are dynasties that have built economic fortresses designed to last for generations. And as the world faces economic instability, the divide between the ultra-rich and the rest of society only continues to grow. But here's the question that few dare to ask: how do they do it? How do these families ensure that their power remains untouched while the rest of the world struggles? The truth is both shocking and disturbing. From their control over banking institutions to their influence on global politics, from their hidden offshore accounts to their ties with intelligence agencies, these families have created a system where they always win, no matter what happens in the world. This video will take you deep into the untold stories of the world's most powerful families. We'll expose the billionaire dynasties that have manipulated financial crises, influenced elections, and maintained their wealth through hidden networks and offshore strategies. We'll also reveal some of the biggest scandals linked to these families, scandals they've worked tirelessly to erase from public memory. By the end of this video, you'll never look at the world the same way again. The idea of democracy, free markets, and fair competition. Those are just illusions, carefully crafted by the rich to maintain their position at the top. Because when you have enough money, you don't just control a business or an industry, you control entire nations, entire economies, and in some cases, even the course of history itself. Now, let's dive deeper into exactly how these families maintain their power, starting with the secrets of generational wealth and why some families remain rich for centuries while others lose everything in just a few decades. The wealth that never dies: how rich families maintain power. Our wealth isn't just about making money, it's about keeping it, growing it, and ensuring it stays in the hands of the same families for generations. While many people dream of becoming rich, only a select few ever join the ranks of the ultra-wealthy. But here's the real secret: the richest families in the world don't just accumulate wealth. They pass it down through carefully constructed systems designed to ensure that no matter what happens, their money and power never disappears. Generational wealth versus new money. There's a fundamental difference between the self-made billionaire and the dynasty that has controlled wealth for centuries. New money comes from entrepreneurs, athletes, and celebrities who make their fortunes in their lifetimes. They experience sudden financial success, but without the infrastructure to protect their wealth, much of it disappears within a few generations. Old money families, on the other hand, have perfected the art of keeping their wealth intact. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Waltons, and the European aristocracies have developed sophisticated systems to ensure that their fortunes not only survive but multiply over time. These families don't just invest in businesses, they invest in power. They buy influence in government, fund political campaigns, and control industries that are too big to fail. The Rothschild banking dynasty, for example, dates back to the 18th century. Unlike most fortunes that are lost over time, the Rothschilds maintained control over global banking systems, real estate, and corporate investments for over 200 years. They did this by understanding one key principle: true wealth isn't just money, it's control over resources, governments, and financial institutions. Then there's the Rockefeller family, one of the most famous examples of long-lasting wealth. John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, became the world's first billionaire. But what made the Rockefellers unique wasn't just their money, it was the way they structured their fortune. The Rockefeller Foundation and various trusts ensured that wealth stayed within the family while also giving them influence over politics, healthcare, and global finance. Even in modern times, families like the Waltons, heirs to the Walmart empire, have managed to keep their multi-billion-dollar fortune intact. The Walton family collectively controls more wealth than 42% of American families combined. How do they do it? They don't just own shares in Walmart, they control the infrastructure that allows them to pass down their empire without ever losing their grip. The power of trust funds and shell companies. One of the biggest secrets of the ultra-rich is how they protect their wealth from taxation and redistribution. Billionaire families don't just store their money in bank accounts like the average person. They create complex financial structures that make it nearly impossible for governments to take their wealth. Trust funds are one of the most powerful tools in this strategy. By placing their assets in irrevocable trusts, these families legally separate their wealth from themselves, making it nearly untouchable by tax authorities or lawsuits. This means that even in times of economic crisis, when governments might impose wealth taxes or inheritance taxes, the money in these trusts remains protected. But trusts are just the beginning. Shell companies, corporations that exist only on paper, are another strategy used by billionaire families to move money around the world while avoiding scrutiny. These companies are often set up in tax havens like the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, or Luxembourg, where financial secrecy laws prevent outsiders from knowing who really owns the assets. The Panama Papers leak exposed how some of the world's wealthiest individuals and families were using these offshore accounts to hide trillions of dollars. It revealed that many of the same families who publicly advocate for higher taxes and social responsibility are privately moving their money offshore to avoid contributing to public funds. For billionaire dynasties, the key isn't just making money, it's making sure no one else can take it from them. By creating financial structures that are nearly impossible to trace, they ensure that their fortunes stay within the family, untouched by government regulations or economic downturns. The three-generation curse myth. There's an old saying that wealth never lasts more than 3 generations. According to financial studies, about 90% of wealthy families lose their fortunes by the 3rd generation. The first generation builds the fortune, the second maintains it, and the third spends it all. But some families defy this rule. The question is, how? The answer lies in financial education, discipline, and long-term planning. The families that survive multiple generations without losing their wealth follow a strict set of principles that go beyond just money management. They instill in their heirs the mindset that wealth isn't about luxury, it's about power. Unlike lottery winners or newly rich entrepreneurs who tend to spend lavishly, families that maintain their fortunes teach their children how to manage businesses, invest in long-term assets, and avoid financial pitfalls. They don't just give their children money, they give them access to networks, political influence, and the tools to continue expanding the family empire. Many of these families also use strict family governance rules. Instead of allowing individual heirs to make decisions on their own, they create family offices, private wealth management firms that ensure that all financial decisions are made collectively, based on long-term strategies rather than short-term gains. The heirs to the Walton fortune, for example, don't make their own investment decisions. Instead, the family's assets are managed by financial advisors who prioritize stability and growth over personal spending. Similarly, the Rothschild family still operates under a unified strategy, making sure that no single family member can dismantle the fortune. Some families even go as far as creating contracts that dictate how their wealth should be used. These agreements, often legally binding, prevent heirs from selling off key assets, marrying outside of approved circles, or making risky investments that could jeopardize the family empire. For these dynasties, wealth isn't just about being rich. It's about control, influence, and making sure their legacy lasts for centuries. The average person might see a billionaire and think of luxury homes and private jets. But for the ultra-rich, money is much more than that. It's a tool for shaping the world in their favor. As we continue, we'll take a deeper look into how billionaire families extend their control beyond wealth, using politics, law, and global financial markets to ensure they remain untouchable. What happens when wealth isn't just about money, but about controlling the world's most powerful institutions? The answer is far more unsettling than you might think. Political influence. How billionaire families control government. Wealth and power are inseparable. The richest families in the world do not just accumulate wealth. They use it to shape political landscapes, fund governments, and influence policies that secure their dominance. Money is not just a tool for luxury, it is the foundation of control. Billionaire families understand that true power lies in governance, and they have mastered the art of installing leaders, writing laws in their favor, and ensuring that no matter who is in office, their interests remain protected. Lobbying and political funding, controlling policies from the shadows. In democratic nations, people are led to believe that elections determine the future of their country. But behind every politician, there are billionaires funding campaigns, writing policies, and ensuring that their wealth remains untouchable. Political donations are not acts of charity. They are investments, and the return on these investments is the ability to shape government policies in favor of the elite. The amount of money pouring into political campaigns from the ultra-rich is staggering. In the United States alone, billionaires and corporate interests spend billions of dollars every election cycle to ensure that their preferred candidates take office. In 2020, political donations from billionaires reached an all-time high, with some individuals spending over $100 million to influence elections. This level of financial involvement guarantees that policies favor corporate and financial elites rather than the general population. Lobbying is another tool used by billionaire families to control governments. Lobbying firms, often funded by major corporations and the wealthiest individuals, work directly with lawmakers to draft legislation that benefits their clients. These policies include tax breaks for the rich, deregulation of industries, and legal loopholes that allow billionaires to avoid paying their fair share. The pharmaceutical industry, oil tycoons, and tech billionaires all spend hundreds of millions each year to ensure that laws work in their favor. In many cases, these laws are written not by elected officials, but by the very corporations that stand to benefit from them. Billionaires have also mastered the art of legal bribery through super PACs and political action committees. These organizations allow wealthy individuals to contribute unlimited amounts of money to influence elections while remaining anonymous. This ensures that the ultra-rich can sway public policy without public scrutiny. Political influence is not about voting power, it is about financial power, and those who control the money ultimately control the government. The hidden hand in elections, billionaire dynasties that shape global politics. While money in politics is often associated with lobbying and campaign donations, billionaire families go even further by directly influencing elections. Some of the most powerful families in the world have been involved in shaping governments, installing leaders, and ensuring that those in power remain loyal to their interests. In the United States, few names are as influential in politics as the Koch brothers. The Koch family, worth over $100 billion, has spent decades funding conservative politicians, think tanks, and policies that benefit their oil and energy empire. Through an intricate network of organizations, the Koch brothers have successfully influenced Supreme Court rulings, tax policies, and environmental regulations, all to protect their corporate interests. Their financial power extends beyond campaign contributions. It controls the very ideology of political movements, ensuring that governments remain aligned with their economic goals. Across the world, other billionaire families exert similar control. The Saudi royal family, one of the wealthiest dynasties in history, has used its vast oil fortune to fund political campaigns and gain influence over global superpowers. Saudi money has poured into Western elections, think tanks, and media organizations to shape public opinion and secure diplomatic ties. The influence of the Saudi monarchy is so strong that even when major controversies arise, such as human rights violations or international scandals, governments hesitate to act against them. This is the power of wealth in politics. It silences opposition and ensures protection at the highest levels. Russian oligarchs have also demonstrated how wealth translates to political power. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, a handful of elite businessmen seized control of state-owned industries, becoming billionaires overnight. These oligarchs, with their vast financial resources, began to fund political candidates, influence elections, and control major aspects of Russian governance. Many of them maintain close ties with the Kremlin, ensuring that their economic dominance remains secure. This pattern is not unique to Russia. It is a global phenomenon where the wealthiest families dictate the direction of entire nations. The idea that governments serve the people is a carefully crafted illusion. In reality, political leaders, regardless of party affiliation, often answer to the billionaires who fund them. Elections may give the public the impression of choice, but the real decision-makers operate behind the scenes, ensuring that whoever wins, their wealth remains intact. Playing both sides, how billionaire families profit from wars and conflict. One of the darkest secrets of the world's richest families is their involvement in global conflicts. Wars may appear to be ideological battles between nations, but in many cases, they are engineered and financed by the ultra-wealthy. For centuries, billionaire dynasties have profited from war, supplying weapons, funding military operations, and even financing both sides of a conflict. History has shown that war is one of the most profitable businesses in existence. During World War II, several major corporations and wealthy families played both sides of the conflict. Some American companies continued trading with Nazi Germany even after the war began, while European banking families financed war efforts for multiple nations. The result? No matter which side won, the wealth of these families grew. Today, the same patterns persist. The defense industry is one of the most lucrative sectors in the world, generating trillions of dollars in profits. Billionaire families that own weapons manufacturers, military contractors, and defense technology firms directly benefit from global instability. Every time a new conflict arises, stock prices of defense companies skyrocket, funneling even more money into the hands of the elite. Beyond the defense industry, the financial sector also plays a significant role in war profiteering. Large banks and investment firms provide loans to governments engaged in conflicts, earning massive interest on war-related expenditures. Some of the wealthiest families in the world have been linked to funding both government and opposition forces in various conflicts, ensuring that, regardless of the outcome, they maintain financial control. The war in the Middle East is a prime example of this strategy. Oil-rich nations, backed by billionaire investors, have played a central role in funding military operations, terrorist organizations, and private armies. Conflicts in the region have led to massive profits for defense contractors, oil companies, and global financiers. Meanwhile, the public bears the cost of war, both in human lives and economic instability. The strategy is clear: use wealth to influence governments, create instability where profitable, and ensure that wars generate financial gains for the elite. This is not a new concept. It is a practice that has been perfected over centuries. The world's wealthiest families understand that political power is not about ideology, it is about control. The illusion of democracy suggests that governments serve the people, but history tells a different story. The most powerful families in the world have mastered the art of political influence, ensuring that every major decision, whether it is economic policy, war, or global trade, serves their interests. They do not simply control wealth, they control the rules of the game, ensuring that no matter who holds office, their influence remains unchallenged. As we move forward, we will uncover how these billionaire families extend their power even further by manipulating financial markets, shaping economic crises, and ensuring that their wealth continues to grow regardless of global instability. The question is no longer whether they have control. Financial manipulation, controlling global markets, money is power. But even more powerful is the ability to control how money moves. Billionaire families do not just accumulate wealth, they manipulate global financial systems to ensure that money always flows in their favor. This is not about simple business transactions or smart investments. It is about orchestrating economic events that impact entire nations, creating crises that devastate the working class while enriching those at the top. The global economy is not a free market. It is a rigged system designed to benefit the few while ensuring that the majority remains dependent on the financial structures controlled by the ultra-rich. The 2008 financial crash: how billionaire banking families profited while the world suffered. One of the most glaring examples of financial manipulation in modern history is the 2008 financial crash. It was an event that destroyed millions of lives, wiped out savings, and caused mass unemployment. While the public was told that this was an unfortunate market failure, the reality is that the crisis was not just predictable, it was profitable for those who knew how to exploit it. The housing bubble leading up to the crash was not an accident. Major banks and financial institutions, many of which were owned or heavily influenced by billionaire families, knowingly gave out high-risk mortgages, knowing they would eventually fail. These banks did not just take reckless risks, they created an environment where failure was inevitable, betting against their own customers while publicly reassuring investors that everything was stable. When the crash came, the losses were absorbed by the public. Governments rushed to bail out these massive financial institutions, using taxpayer money to prevent their collapse. The very same banks that caused the crisis were deemed too big to fail, meaning they were given billions of dollars to stabilize their operations while millions of ordinary people lost their homes and jobs. The stock market plunged, wiping out retirement funds and savings accounts, yet within a few years, the financial elite had not only recovered but had become wealthier than ever. hedge funds and private equity firms saw an opportunity. As home values collapsed, they bought properties at a fraction of their worth, turning the housing market into a playground for corporate landlords. The very people who had been forced out of their homes by predatory lending practices were now renting those same properties from the ultra-rich at inflated prices. It was not just a market collapse, it was a wealth transfer, moving trillions of dollars from the working and middle class into the hands of the billionaire elite. The aftermath of the crisis revealed an undeniable truth. When the rich make bad bets, they do not lose. The financial system is structured in a way that ensures their survival. Governments, central banks, and regulatory agencies all operate under the influence of the same families that control these financial institutions. It is not about protecting the economy, it is about protecting the wealth of those who already own it. The Federal Reserve and central banks, the hidden influence of ultra-rich families in global banking systems. Most people assume that central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the United States, operate independently, working in the best interests of the public. But in reality, central banks are not neutral institutions. They are deeply intertwined with the financial elite, ensuring that monetary policy benefits the wealthiest individuals while leaving the average person struggling with inflation, debt, and economic instability. The Federal Reserve, often referred to as the Fed, has the power to print money, set interest rates, and regulate financial institutions. These decisions have massive consequences for the global economy, influencing everything from the cost of borrowing to the stability of financial markets. While the Fed is portrayed as a public institution, its policies consistently align with the interests of billionaire banking families. One of the most controversial aspects of central banking is the practice of quantitative easing, essentially printing money to inject into financial markets. Following the 2008 crash, the Federal Reserve and other central banks around the world printed trillions of dollars, claiming that this would stabilize the economy. In reality, much of this money went directly into the stock market, benefiting large corporations and wealthy investors rather than the working-class people who had lost their jobs and savings. The European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the Swiss National Bank all follow similar models, ensuring that the financial elite always have access to easy capital while ordinary citizens are burdened with rising costs and stagnant wages. Inflation, a direct consequence of central bank policies, eats away at the savings and purchasing power of the average person, while billionaire families see their assets appreciate in value. The secrecy surrounding central banks is another major red flag. While elected governments are supposed to oversee economic policy, many of the key decisions are made behind closed doors, with little transparency or accountability. Meetings between central bankers and the heads of the world's largest financial institutions are rarely disclosed, leaving the public in the dark about how economic policies are truly decided. Billionaire families do not just benefit from these systems, they help shape them. Many of the world's wealthiest individuals have direct ties to central banking institutions, either through advisory roles, board memberships, or financial contributions to political figures who influence monetary policy. The end result is a system where financial power is concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority of people remain dependent on economic policies that prioritize corporate profits over public well-being. Market manipulation tactics, how hedge funds, insider trading, and economic crises are orchestrated for profit. The stock market is often presented as a fair playing field where investors make money based on skill, strategy, and market trends. But in reality, financial markets are not random. They are manipulated by those who have the power to control them. Hedge funds, investment banks, and elite investors use a range of tactics to manipulate prices, influence trading patterns, and create artificial market conditions that allow them to extract massive profits. One of the most common forms of manipulation is insider trading, using non-public information to make stock trades before the general public has access to critical data. While this practice is illegal for most individuals, it is rarely prosecuted when committed by those at the top. Wealthy investors have access to government officials, corporate executives, and industry leaders who provide them with information that allows them to make trades before the market reacts. Short selling is another tool frequently used to manipulate markets. Hedge funds and institutional investors bet against stocks, profiting when share prices decline. In many cases, these investors actively work to drive down stock prices by spreading negative information, lobbying for regulatory changes, or even coordinating large-scale sell-offs. This creates a situation where they can profit from market crashes while the average investor loses everything. Economic crises themselves are often engineered to benefit the wealthy. Market downturns allow billionaire families to buy up distressed assets, acquire struggling companies at low prices, and consolidate their control over key industries. This is not a conspiracy theory, it is a well-documented pattern that has played out repeatedly throughout history. The COVID-19 pandemic provided yet another example of how crises benefit the financial elite. While millions of people lost their jobs and businesses, billionaires saw their wealth skyrocket. Governments printed trillions of dollars, much of which ended up in the stock market, fueling record highs for corporate giants and tech billionaires. Meanwhile, small businesses collapsed, housing prices surged, and inflation made everyday essentials more expensive for the average person. The reality is that financial markets are not designed to create wealth for everyone. They are designed to extract wealth from the many and concentrate it into the hands of the few. Billionaire families do not just play the market. They control it, ensuring that every major financial event, whether a boom or a crash, ultimately works in their favor. As we move forward, we will expose how these families extend their influence even further, using secret societies, exclusive networks, and hidden connections to maintain control over global affairs. The financial world may appear complex, but at its core, it is a system of power, designed to ensure that the rich always win. The question is not whether this manipulation exists, the question is whether the world will ever be able to break free from its grip. Secret societies and hidden networks. Wealth alone is not enough to maintain power. The richest families in the world do not rely solely on money to influence global affairs. They operate within exclusive clubs, hidden networks, and secret societies that allow them to coordinate their efforts, exchange intelligence, and ensure their continued dominance. These gatherings are not the work of fiction or conspiracy theories. They are well-documented meetings where the most powerful individuals on the planet discuss the future of governments, economies, and societies. While the public is led to believe that world leaders operate independently, the reality is far more unsettling. Decisions that affect billions of lives are often made in private rooms, far from public scrutiny, and in the presence of the same ultra-wealthy families that have controlled global affairs for centuries. Are secret societies real? Examining the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the World Economic Forum, the idea of secret societies influencing global events may sound like a movie plot, but history has proven that such gatherings are not only real but highly influential. The Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the World Economic Forum are just a few of the organizations where the world's wealthiest and most powerful individuals meet to discuss global strategy. These meetings are not open to the public, and the details of their discussions are rarely disclosed. The Bilderberg Group was founded in 1954 as a private gathering of political leaders, bankers, and business moguls from North America and Europe. The stated goal of the group is to encourage dialogue between nations, but critics argue that it is a way for the global elite to coordinate economic policies, trade agreements, and political influence behind closed doors. Every year, the world's most influential figures attend these meetings, including billionaires, heads of state, and corporate executives. No journalists are allowed inside, and attendees are strictly prohibited from sharing what is discussed. The secrecy surrounding the group has fueled speculation that it serves as an unofficial governing body where the wealthiest families and corporations set global agendas without public accountability. The Trilateral Commission, founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller, was established to strengthen cooperation between North America, Europe, and Japan. While it presents itself as a think tank, its influence on global policy cannot be ignored. Many of its members have held key positions in governments, financial institutions, and multinational corporations, ensuring that economic and political decisions align with the interests of the elite. The organization's influence extends beyond policy recommendations. Its members have been linked to the selection of political candidates, the shaping of international trade agreements, and even the coordination of global economic responses during financial crises. The World Economic Forum, held annually in Davos, Switzerland, is another gathering of the global elite. Unlike the Bilderberg Group, this event is more public, with media coverage and high-profile speeches. However, behind the carefully crafted public image lies a network of billionaire investors, tech giants, and political leaders who shape the future of global policies. Many of the world's largest corporations fund the forum, and its initiatives often align with corporate interests rather than the well-being of ordinary citizens. While the forum presents itself as a place to discuss solutions to global problems, its real function appears to be the consolidation of wealth and power among the world's most influential families. The wealthy's exclusive clubs, what happens behind closed doors at the Bohemian Grove? Beyond economic and political strategy meetings, the ultra-rich also gather in exclusive clubs that are shrouded in secrecy. Bohemian Grove, a private retreat in California, is one such gathering that has been the subject of speculation for decades. Every year, some of the most powerful men in the world, CEOs, politicians, billionaires, and even former presidents, attend this highly secretive event. The public is not allowed access, and media coverage is strictly prohibited. Bohemian Grove is unlike any other elite gathering. While its attendees claim it is a place for relaxation and social bonding, reports from insiders suggest that it serves a far more significant purpose. Ritualistic ceremonies, bizarre performances, and confidential discussions take place in the secluded redwood forests, away from public scrutiny. Former attendees have revealed that political alliances are formed, economic policies are influenced, and global strategies are discussed in an environment free from oversight. The level of secrecy surrounding the event raises serious questions about what is being planned behind closed doors. Some of the most powerful leaders in history have been members of Bohemian Grove, and many have gone on to hold positions of extreme influence after attending. US presidents, top banking executives, and heads of multinational corporations have all been regular attendees. While some argue that the retreat is nothing more than an elaborate networking event, others believe it is a place where the world's most powerful figures coordinate their long-term strategies. Throughout history, exclusive clubs like Bohemian Grove have played a central role in shaping global events. These gatherings are not just about social connections. They are about ensuring that the wealthiest families and their allies continue to control the direction of economies, governments, and even cultural movements. The secrecy that surrounds these meetings is not an accident. It is a way to maintain power without public interference. The deep state connection, how billionaires allegedly control intelligence agencies and global surveillance. The influence of billionaire families does not stop at financial institutions and political offices. Many of the wealthiest individuals on the planet have deep ties to intelligence agencies, military operations, and global surveillance networks. The idea of a deep state, a hidden network of individuals who control governments behind the scenes, has been debated for years, but the evidence suggests that billionaires play a crucial role in shaping intelligence policies and operations. Major intelligence agencies, including the CIA, MI6, and Mossad, have long been linked to wealthy individuals who fund covert operations, influence foreign policy, and ensure that global surveillance systems remain in place. Billionaire families with interests in banking, technology, and defense contracting have direct financial ties to intelligence agencies, providing them with both resources and strategic influence. Tech billionaires have also become key players in global surveillance. Companies that control data, social media, and artificial intelligence work closely with intelligence agencies to monitor populations, track financial transactions, and influence public opinion. While the general public is told that mass surveillance is necessary for national security, in reality, it is often used as a tool to suppress dissent and maintain economic control. The relationship between billionaire families and intelligence agencies extends beyond mere cooperation. In some cases, these families have actively funded regime changes, political coups, and destabilization efforts in foreign nations. Wealth is not just a passive form of power, it is an active force that shapes global conflicts, influences military decisions, and ensures that governments remain loyal to their financial backers. One of the most troubling aspects of this influence is how intelligence agencies protect the ultra-wealthy from public scrutiny. Whistleblowers who expose corruption, financial crimes, or unethical business practices often face immediate retaliation, not just from corporations but from government agencies tasked with national security. The use of intelligence resources to silence critics, suppress investigations, and protect the interests of billionaire families is a direct violation of democratic principles, yet it happens regularly with little public awareness. The reality is that the wealthiest families in the world are not just participants in the global system, they are the architects of it. Their involvement in secret societies, exclusive clubs, and intelligence networks ensures that their power remains unchallenged. Governments may change, economic systems may evolve, but the influence of these families remains constant. Their wealth gives them access to the highest levels of decision-making, allowing them to shape policies, control resources, and dictate the future of nations. As we move forward, we will explore the scandals these families have tried to cover up. While they operate with extreme secrecy, some of their darkest dealings have been exposed, revealing a level of corruption, exploitation, and manipulation that is almost beyond comprehension. The illusion of fairness, transparency, and democracy begins to crumble when the truth about their hidden operations is brought to light. The question is not whether they hold power, the question is how much longer the world will accept it without resistance. The scandals they tried to cover up. The world's wealthiest families operate in secrecy, carefully constructing an image of success, philanthropy, and legitimacy. But behind closed doors, a different reality emerges, one filled with hidden crimes, corruption, and exploitation that they would rather the world never discover. Scandals involving the elite are not just rare incidents, they are systematic patterns of abuse, covered up through wealth, power, and influence. When billionaires are exposed for wrongdoing, they rarely face consequences. Instead, investigations are buried, legal systems are manipulated, and the media is either silenced or used to spin the narrative in their favor. Jeffrey Epstein's billionaire network, how the elite covered up connections to one of history's most controversial figures. Few scandals in modern history have exposed the connections between the world's wealthiest individuals and illegal activities as thoroughly as the Jeffrey Epstein case. His rise to power and influence was not due to his own wealth alone but because of the network of billionaires, politicians, and corporate executives who supported him. For years, Epstein operated in elite circles, cultivating relationships with some of the most powerful figures in the world. His access to politicians, celebrities, and tech moguls raised serious questions about how deeply the global elite were entangled in his criminal activities. Despite his known history of predatory behavior, Epstein continued to socialize with world leaders, Wall Street financiers, and even royalty. He owned multiple properties, including a private island where some of the most disturbing allegations against him took place. Flight logs and visitor records confirmed that countless influential figures visited his properties, yet few were ever investigated or held accountable. When he was first charged, he received what was widely considered a lenient sentence, a private wing in a county jail with the freedom to leave for work every day. It was not until years later that the full extent of his operations came to light. Even after his arrest, the cover-up continued. His suspicious death in a high-security prison raised immediate concerns, with many believing he was silenced before he could expose the true extent of his network. Key evidence disappeared, security cameras malfunctioned, and many of the most powerful figures linked to Epstein distanced themselves, claiming they were unaware of his crimes. His close ties to billionaires and political leaders were quietly erased from public discourse, with many media outlets refusing to investigate deeper. The question remains: if Epstein had survived to stand trial, who would have been exposed? The answer likely includes some of the most powerful families in finance, technology, and government. While his name has faded from headlines, the individuals he was connected to continue to operate at the highest levels of power, untouched and unaccountable. The Panama Papers and offshore accounts: how wealthy families hide trillions of dollars in tax havens. For centuries, the world's richest families have relied on secrecy to protect their fortunes. While ordinary citizens pay taxes, billionaire dynasties have perfected the art of hiding their money, moving trillions of dollars into offshore accounts and shell corporations designed to avoid scrutiny. The public rarely gets a glimpse into this hidden financial system, but the release of the Panama Papers exposed the extent of the corruption. The Panama Papers leak was one of the largest in history, revealing over 11.5 million documents detailing how some of the world's most powerful individuals and corporations used offshore tax havens to hide wealth. The leak implicated heads of state, business tycoons, and celebrities, exposing a network of financial secrecy that stretched across multiple continents. These accounts were not just used for tax avoidance, they were used to launder money, conceal assets, and shield fortunes from government oversight. Billionaire families were at the center of the scandal. While they publicly advocate for economic fairness and corporate responsibility, behind the scenes, they exploit loopholes to avoid paying billions in taxes. By using shell companies registered in countries with strict financial secrecy laws, they can move money without detection, making it nearly impossible for tax authorities to trace the true wealth. Governments responded to the leak with outrage, promising to crack down on tax evasion, but little changed. Most of the individuals exposed in the documents faced no legal consequences. Instead, the scandal faded from public memory, and the offshore financial system continued operating as usual. While occasional leaks expose pieces of this hidden world, the full scale of financial secrecy remains unknown. Trillions of dollars are still stored in offshore accounts, protected by legal loopholes and powerful allies in government. The secrecy of these financial operations is not accidental. The system was built by the elite, for the elite. While working-class individuals are closely monitored by tax authorities, billionaires operate under an entirely different set of rules. Their money is untouchable, their transactions invisible, and their wealth secured by a global network of financial institutions designed to protect them. Child labor, exploitation, and dark money. How luxury brands and tech giants linked to billionaire families use questionable labor practices. The wealth of billionaire families is often presented as a product of innovation, business acumen, and strategic investments. But behind many of the world's largest corporations lies a darker reality, one built on exploitation, forced labor, and unethical supply chains that generate billions in profit while leaving workers in poverty. The same families that control high-end luxury brands, technology companies, and global supply chains have been repeatedly linked to human rights abuses, yet their names rarely make headlines. The fashion industry is one of the biggest offenders. Luxury brands that cater to the ultra-wealthy have been exposed for using factories that rely on underpaid laborers, often in countries with little to no labor protections. Reports have surfaced of workers in sweatshops, some underage, producing high-end products that sell for thousands of dollars while earning just a few cents per hour. These companies deny responsibility, claiming they were unaware of the conditions in their factories, yet investigations have shown that cost-cutting measures prioritize profits over human rights. Technology companies, including some of the most valuable corporations in the world, have also been implicated in exploitation. The production of smartphones, laptops, and other electronics relies on minerals such as cobalt and lithium, many of which are mined in conditions that have been described as modern slavery. Reports from conflict zones have documented the use of child labor in dangerous mining operations, where workers risk their lives to extract materials that power the devices used by billions of people worldwide. These supply chains are carefully hidden, with multiple layers of subcontractors shielding corporate executives from direct accountability. Major corporations routinely deny knowledge of these abuses, but leaked documents and whistleblower testimonies have shown otherwise. Internal reports have revealed that executives are often fully aware of labor conditions but choose to continue operations due to cost efficiency. When scandals emerge, companies issue public apologies, promise reforms, and shift production to new locations, only for the cycle to repeat itself. The wealthiest families who own and invest in these corporations rarely face consequences. Their names remain disconnected from the scandals, their reputations protected by public relations teams and legal strategies designed to distance them from controversy. Even when billion-dollar settlements are reached, the fines are insignificant compared to the profits made through exploitation. Despite occasional media coverage, these issues remain unresolved. The system that allows billionaire families to accumulate wealth is built on a foundation of global inequality. While they live in luxury, millions of workers remain trapped in cycles of poverty, unable to challenge the corporations that profit from their labor. Every time a scandal is exposed, it serves as a reminder that the rules are different for those at the top. They do not just control wealth, they control the mechanisms that allow them to remain above the law. As we continue to uncover the extent of billionaire influence, the question becomes clear. If this level of corruption, secrecy, and exploitation exists, what does the future hold? The next chapter will explore how these families are shaping the world to ensure that their power remains unchallenged for generations to come. Their control is not just about the present, it is about the future of global wealth and who will have access to it. The dark side of philanthropy. Are they really helping? Billionaire families have long understood the power of public perception. The image of the ruthless corporate mogul, amassing wealth while the rest of the world struggles, does not sit well with the public. To counter this, the ultra-rich have embraced philanthropy, presenting themselves as benevolent benefactors of society. Lavish donations, high-profile charity initiatives, and grand pledges to solve the world's most pressing issues create an illusion of generosity. But beneath this carefully crafted image lies a far more complex and self-serving reality. Philanthropy, for many of the world's wealthiest families, is not just about giving, it is about maintaining control, expanding influence, and ensuring that their wealth remains intact for generations to come. The philanthropy illusion: how billionaires use charitable foundations as tax loopholes. Philanthropy is often presented as a moral duty, a way for the wealthy to give back to society. But for many billionaires, charitable foundations are not a burden, they are a strategic financial tool. While the public sees generous donations and billion-dollar pledges, behind the scenes, these same contributions are used to minimize tax burdens, shelter assets, and protect wealth from government scrutiny. The structure of charitable foundations allows billionaires to retain control over their money while enjoying significant tax benefits. In many countries, donations to registered charities and foundations are tax-deductible. This means that instead of paying taxes on massive fortunes, billionaire families can move their wealth into foundations and claim it as a charitable contribution. These foundations then invest in stocks, real estate, and businesses, growing their assets while being exempt from taxation. In many cases, the money never actually reaches the causes that the foundations claim to support. Instead, it remains under the control of the wealthy, managed by family members and close associates who decide how and when the funds are used. The secrecy surrounding private foundations makes it difficult to track where the money actually goes. Many billionaires donate to their own charities, shifting money from one entity to another without any real impact on the causes they claim to support. Reports have shown that some of the largest foundations in the world distribute only a fraction of their assets annually, ensuring that their wealth continues to grow while maintaining the illusion of generosity. Billionaire philanthropy also serves as a powerful public relations tool. Whenever criticism arises about corporate greed, tax evasion, or exploitative business practices, the response is often to highlight charitable giving. Media outlets celebrate these acts of generosity, shifting the narrative away from the economic and social damage caused by the same billionaires who claim to be solving the world's problems. The illusion of philanthropy is not just about charity, it is about power, influence, and controlling the global conversation. Giving pledges versus real impact. Examining if the world's richest are truly helping or just reshaping society in their image. The Giving Pledge, an initiative launched by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, encourages billionaires to commit at least half of their wealth to charity. On the surface, this appears to be a noble endeavor, a way for the world's richest individuals to use their wealth for the greater good. But a closer look at these pledges raises critical questions about the true impact and whether they serve the interests of society or the donors themselves. Many of the billionaires who sign the giving pledge do not actually give away their money in their lifetimes. Instead, they move their wealth into private foundations, where they retain control over how it is spent. These foundations, often run by family members and close advisors, dictate the terms of charitable giving, ensuring that the money is used in ways that align with the donor's interests. In some cases, these foundations serve as vehicles for influence, shaping government policies, funding private research, and controlling industries under the guise of philanthropy. Philanthropy also allows billionaires to rewrite history and position themselves as thought leaders and visionaries. They fund academic institutions, media organizations, and research initiatives that promote their worldview, ensuring that their ideas and interests shape public discourse. The influence of billionaire-backed foundations extends into education, healthcare, and even government policies, creating a system where private wealth dictates public decision-making. The concentration of philanthropic power raises ethical concerns. While billionaires have the freedom to fund causes they believe in, their influence often overshadows democratic processes. Governments, reliant on private donations for social programs, become dependent on the whims of a few wealthy individuals. The public has little to no say in how these funds are allocated, yet the decisions made by billionaire-backed foundations affect millions of lives. This power dynamic creates an environment where public institutions lose autonomy, replaced by the priorities of the ultra-rich. The reality is that billionaire philanthropy is not always about solving problems. It is about controlling how those problems are addressed. By positioning themselves as global problem solvers, the ultra-rich ensure that their wealth remains at the center of the world's most pressing issues. They do not simply give money away. They buy influence, shape policy, and reinforce systems that keep their power intact. Case study: the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, helping or controlling global health policies. Few philanthropic organizations have had as much global influence as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. With billions of dollars in assets, the foundation has positioned itself as a leader in global health, funding initiatives to combat infectious diseases, improve sanitation, and increase access to vaccines. The foundation's work is often praised as a model of effective philanthropy, but critics argue that its influence over global health policies raises serious concerns about accountability, transparency, and control. The Gates Foundation has played a key role in funding the World Health Organization, vaccine distribution programs, and medical research. This financial support gives it significant leverage over global health decisions, allowing it to dictate priorities and influence policies. Governments and public health organizations, reliant on foundation funding, often align their strategies with the interests of the Gates Foundation, raising questions about whether public health policies are being shaped by private interests. The foundation's investments also raise ethical concerns. While it funds health initiatives, it also holds financial stakes in pharmaceutical companies, raising questions about conflicts of interest. Reports have highlighted how some of the foundation's investments benefit the same industries it claims to regulate and improve. This overlap between philanthropy and corporate interests blurs the line between charity and business, making it difficult to determine whether the foundation's actions are purely altruistic or strategically designed to reinforce its influence. Another area of concern is the lack of accountability. Unlike governments, which are subject to public oversight, private foundations operate with little transparency. Decisions about global health funding, vaccine distribution, and research priorities are made behind closed doors, with little input from the communities affected by these policies. While the Foundation's work has led to medical advancements, it has also created a system where a single organization wields enormous power over global health decisions. The influence of billionaire philanthropy extends beyond healthcare. The Gates Foundation has invested in education reform, agriculture, and technology, shaping policies in multiple sectors. Critics argue that this level of private influence undermines democratic governance, allowing a handful of individuals to dictate public policy without oversight or accountability. Philanthropy, when used ethically, has the potential to create meaningful change. But when billionaire families control the process, it often becomes another tool for influence, power, and self-preservation. The public is told that these donations are acts of generosity, but in reality, they serve to expand the reach of the ultra-rich, ensuring that they remain central to global decision-making. As we continue to examine the impact of billionaire families on global affairs, the question remains, is this level of private influence sustainable? The next chapter will explore the future of wealth, the rise of new billionaire dynasties, and the industries that will shape global power in the coming decades. While the world changes, one thing remains constant: those who hold wealth will always seek to control the systems that determine the future. The question, future of wealth and who will control the world. Wealth has always been concentrated in the hands of a few, but the faces of power are changing. For centuries, old money families controlled the world's financial, political, and social systems through generational wealth, banking empires, and secretive influence. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and other dynasties maintained their grip through inherited power and financial institutions that dictated the course of global markets. But today, a new breed of billionaire is emerging, one that is not tied to oil, banking, or industrial empires, but to technology. The rise of tech billionaires has reshaped global wealth, creating a new hierarchy of influence where innovation, artificial intelligence, and space colonization are replacing traditional industries as the foundation of power. The rise of tech billionaires, how the new generation is replacing old money families in influence. For decades, old money families dictated the flow of global capital. They controlled oil reserves, banking institutions, and industrial empires that spanned continents. But the 21st century introduced a new class of billionaires, individuals who amassed vast fortunes not through generational inheritance but by revolutionizing technology. Names like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg now rival the wealth and influence of the traditional elite, and in many ways, they have surpassed them. Tech billionaires have not only accumulated immense wealth but have also positioned themselves as the architects of the future. Unlike industrial magnates of the past, whose wealth was rooted in natural resources and manufacturing, these individuals control the very platforms and digital infrastructures that govern modern life. Social media, e-commerce, artificial intelligence, and cloud computing are not just industries. They are mechanisms of control, determining how people communicate, shop, work, and even think. Jeff Bezos transformed Amazon from an online bookstore into an economic empire that influences everything from global shipping to artificial intelligence. Elon Musk, through Tesla and SpaceX, has positioned himself as the leader of electric vehicles, space travel, and even brain-computer interface technology. Mark Zuckerberg, through Meta, controls the largest social media ecosystem in history, shaping the way billions of people interact, consume news, and even participate in democracy. These new billionaires do not just own companies, they own the infrastructures upon which modern civilization depends. Their influence is not limited to business. Governments now rely on these tech giants for data storage, artificial intelligence development, and even military technology. Contracts between Silicon Valley firms and intelligence agencies have blurred the line between corporate power and government control. Tech billionaires have become indispensable to national security, economic stability, and even public health. Unlike the old money elite, who operated in secrecy, this new generation of billionaires exerts influence openly, positioning themselves as visionaries leading humanity toward an advanced technological age. Will billionaires rule space? The race for Mars, satellite control, and AI-driven global domination. And for the first time in history, space is becoming a domain of private industry. The race for Mars, control over satellite networks, and the development of AI-driven automation are no longer just national ambitions, they are billionaire-led enterprises. The world's wealthiest individuals are not just looking to dominate industries on Earth, they are seeking control over the future of humanity itself. Elon Musk's SpaceX has revolutionized space travel, making what was once solely the domain of government agencies into a private industry. Musk has openly stated his goal of colonizing Mars, with plans to establish a self-sustaining human settlement beyond Earth. If successful, this would mark the first time in history that a private individual, not a nation, controls an entire planetary colony. This is not just about exploration, it is about creating a new frontier where the rules of power, governance, and economy will be written by those who get there first. Jeff Bezos has also positioned himself in the space race with Blue Origin, focusing on lunar exploration and space tourism. His vision of space involves massive orbiting colonies that could house millions of people, controlled and funded by private enterprise rather than government agencies. Unlike Musk, who envisions Mars as a second home for humanity, Bezos believes Earth should become a protected sanctuary, with industrial activity and expansion taking place in space. The implications of this are staggering. If billionaires succeed in expanding human civilization beyond Earth, they will not just be corporate leaders, they will become the founders of new worlds. Beyond colonization, the battle for satellite control is already underway. SpaceX's Starlink network is providing global internet coverage, but it also represents a new form of power. The ability to control satellite-based communication, surveillance, and data transmission gives these tech billionaires an unprecedented level of influence over global affairs. Governments, businesses, and entire populations will depend on privately owned networks for essential communication services. In a world where the internet is as vital as electricity and water, whoever owns the infrastructure holds the ultimate power. Artificial intelligence is another frontier where tech billionaires are consolidating control. AI has the potential to replace entire industries, automate jobs, and reshape economies at an unprecedented scale. Companies like OpenAI, Google, and Tesla are racing to develop the most advanced AI systems, with the power to influence everything from stock markets to political decision-making. The ethical concerns surrounding AI development have largely been left to the same corporations that profit from its advancement. If left unchecked, AI could become a tool of unprecedented economic and political control, reinforcing the dominance of the ultra-rich while eliminating competition. Could wealth ever be redistributed? Examining economic theories about breaking ultra-rich monopoly, the concentration of wealth has reached historic levels, with billionaires controlling more assets than entire nations. The divide between the ultra-rich and the rest of the world continues to grow, sparking debates about whether wealth could ever be redistributed in a way that benefits society as a whole. Economic theories proposing wealth redistribution have been discussed for decades, but few have been successfully implemented on a scale that challenges billionaire dominance. Progressive taxation, wealth taxes, and universal basic income have been proposed as ways to address extreme inequality. Countries like Norway and Denmark have implemented higher tax rates on the wealthy, redistributing income to fund public services, education, and healthcare. However, billionaires have mastered the art of tax avoidance, using offshore accounts, loopholes, and philanthropic foundations to shield their wealth from government intervention. Even when tax increases are proposed, powerful lobbying efforts ensure that legislation is diluted or never passed at all. Some economists argue that breaking up monopolies and redistributing corporate ownership could create a fairer economy. Tech giants like Amazon, Google, and Facebook have been accused of monopolistic practices, limiting competition and controlling vast portions of global commerce and communication. Calls for antitrust action have grown louder, with some advocating for the breakup of these companies to prevent a handful of billionaires from controlling entire industries. However, the political and financial influence of these corporations makes significant reform unlikely. Universal basic income, the idea of providing a guaranteed income to all citizens, has been proposed as a way to counteract job losses due to automation and AI. If implemented, it could reduce economic inequality and provide financial security to millions. However, many critics argue that it would be difficult to fund without higher taxation on the ultra-rich, something billionaires and their allies strongly oppose. While economic theories on wealth redistribution continue to be debated, history suggests that true systemic change rarely occurs voluntarily. The wealthiest individuals and families have spent centuries perfecting systems that protect their fortunes. Even during times of economic crisis, billionaire wealth continues to grow, reinforcing the reality that financial power is deeply entrenched. The future of wealth is not just about money, it is about control, and those who hold the most influence will continue to shape the world in their favor. As technology advances, space colonization accelerates, and artificial intelligence reshapes industries, the question is no longer whether billionaires will control the future, it is how much control they will have. The next chapter will take a final look at what this means for the world, whether resistance is possible, and whether the global population will continue to accept a system where a handful of individuals dictate the course of human civilization. The world is changing, but the concentration of wealth and power remains an enduring force, shaping history in ways that most people will never fully see or understand. The world's richest families do not just accumulate wealth, they shape the world itself. They control industries, manipulate financial markets, influence governments, and operate through hidden networks that the average person will never have access to. Their power is not limited to money. It extends into politics, economics, technology, and even the future of space exploration. They dictate the direction of global policies, control the flow of information, and use philanthropy to maintain their influence while avoiding scrutiny. The illusion of democracy and free markets is just that, an illusion. The reality is that the ultra-rich set the rules, ensuring that their dominance remains unchallenged for generations to come. The financial world is not a place of fair competition, but a system designed to benefit those who already hold power. The 2008 financial crash showed how billionaire banking families profited while ordinary people lost their homes and livelihoods. The Federal Reserve and central banks, institutions that claim to work for economic stability, are closely intertwined with the interests of the financial elite. The manipulation of stock markets, hedge fund tactics, and the orchestration of economic downturns have repeatedly proven that wealth is not just earned, it is controlled, engineered, and concentrated in the hands of a few. Politics, once thought to be the great equalizer of society, has been co-opted by billionaire influence. Governments do not act independently but are shaped by campaign funding, lobbying, and political investments made by the ultra-rich. Elections become a game of financial strategy, where those who control the funding control the policies. The illusion of choice is maintained through political theater, but in reality, those with financial power continue to pull the strings regardless of who is in office. The role of secret societies and hidden networks further exposes how elite families consolidate their influence. The Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the World Economic Forum serve as meeting grounds where the world's most powerful figures align their interests behind closed doors. Exclusive clubs like Bohemian Grove create spaces where future policies, economic trends, and even global conflicts are shaped in secrecy. The deep state connection, where intelligence agencies operate with the support and funding of billionaire families, further blurs the line between public governance and private control. Philanthropy, often viewed as a noble act of giving, is instead a tool of influence. Billionaire families use charitable foundations to shield their wealth from taxation while expanding their control over industries like healthcare, education, and environmental policies. The illusion of generosity hides the reality that philanthropy is often designed to serve private interests rather than the public good. Even initiatives like the Giving Pledge, where billionaires commit to donating a portion of their wealth, often serve as vehicles for influence rather than genuine redistribution of resources. The rise of tech billionaires has accelerated the shift in global power, replacing old money dynasties with a new digital aristocracy. Figures like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg now rival the influence once held by traditional banking and oil empires. Their control over social media, artificial intelligence, space travel, and satellite communications positions them as the architects of the future. Governments rely on them for technology, infrastructure, and even military advancements, making them indispensable to the global order. The future of wealth is no longer confined to Earth. It extends into space, artificial intelligence, and industries that will shape the next century of human civilization. The question remains: are we truly living in a democracy, or is wealth the real power? If elections are determined by campaign funding, if policies are shaped by lobbying, if financial markets are manipulated for profit, and if the richest individuals control the flow of information, then what does democracy really mean? The traditional belief that government represents the people has been systematically dismantled by the overwhelming influence of wealth. Billionaire families do not just participate in the system, they own it. The idea that wealth could be redistributed or that billionaire monopolies could be broken remains highly debated. While progressive taxation, antitrust laws, and universal basic income have been proposed as solutions, history has shown that those in power do not give up their influence willingly. The mechanisms that protect billionaire wealth are deeply entrenched, designed to ensure that no real systemic change takes place. The challenge for the future is not just about economic inequality, it is about control. As artificial intelligence, automation, and digital surveillance expand, the ability of billionaire families to dictate global affairs will only grow stronger. The next frontier of power will not just be financial, it will be technological, and those who control the systems of the future will hold more influence than any dynasty in history. The call to action is clear. It is time to think critically about who truly controls the world. The narrative that success is based on hard work and merit is a carefully crafted illusion, designed to keep the majority of people from questioning the structures that maintain extreme wealth concentration. Understanding the depth of billionaire influence is the first step in recognizing how the world operates behind the scenes. Information is power, and those who control the truth control everything. The world is changing, but the forces that govern it remain the same. Billionaire families are not just players in the system, they are the system. The question is no longer whether they hold power, the question is whether the rest of the world will ever be able to take it back.